good, Augusta? Okay, here. When you found out she had Down syndrome, what went through your mind?
I don't know, we were just surprised.
Wow.
Let's go. Upstairs. Because we hadn't thought about that possibility.
Children like Augusta are becoming increasingly rare here in Iceland. That's because over the last decade or so, 100% of pregnant women whose prenatal tests have come back positive for Down syndrome have decided to end their pregnancies.
This is a country of about 350,000. It has now almost completely eliminated Down syndrome births since the test began in the early 2000s. There are similar trends across Europe, a stark contrast with the United States, where parents decide to end 67% of these pregnancies. These numbers could continue to rise as screenings become more widespread. Thordis Ingadottir had the screening during her own pregnancy, and it showed her at low risk. But the results are only 85% accurate. Her daughter Augusta, now 7, was born with Down syndrome.
How many other kids like Augusta are there in her age group in Iceland?
Oh, in her year, born 2009, there was 3.
3?
Yes.
In the whole country?
Yep.
Wow.
Down syndrome is a genetic disorder which results in distinct facial features and a range of developmental issues. But many born with the condition today can still live long, healthy lives. Leading geneticist Dr. Kari Stephenson has spent decades studying Iceland's uniquely homogeneous DNA.
This white thing in here is somebody's DNA. It's nothing more than that. It's a tiny little white speck in a test tube. My understanding is that we have basically eradicated almost Down syndrome from our society, that there is hardly ever a child born with Down syndrome in Iceland anymore.
And what does the 100% termination rate, though, you think reflect about Icelandic society?
I think it reflects a relatively heavy-handed genetic counseling.
At issue is what's called the combined test, a genetic screening where expectant mothers can learn the likelihood of a chromosomal abnormality like Down syndrome. While the test is not mandatory, the government of Iceland requires that all women are told about its availability.
Nearly every baby in Iceland is born here at Landspítali University Hospital.
This is the heart of Iceland's socialized healthcare system, where most of those initial screenings take place at 10 to 12 weeks. Hulda Hjartardóttir is the head of the prenatal diagnosis unit here and one of the last voices women will hear before deciding whether to continue with a pregnancy.
We try to do as neutral counseling as possible, but some people would say just offering the test is pointing you towards a certain direction.
What do you think about that?
I think that has some truth in it. Obviously, if you didn't mention it, then you wouldn't be thinking about it. About 80 to 85% of women want to have a Down syndrome screening.
So there was a demand for this?
Absolutely, yeah. Babies with Down syndrome are still being born in Iceland. Some of them were low risk in our screening test, so we didn't find them with the screening.
We decide to speak with some pregnant women, catching up with them at a geothermal pool for a birthing class of the Icelandic variety. Despite the trends here, we find a few mothers who have opted out of these screenings.
Why did you not want to know?
Because it wouldn't make a difference, actually. I work with autistic children mainly, and my brother-in-law has Down syndrome. And I think it's just horrible, the statistics. People are afraid of things they don't know.
Did anybody feel any pressure to have the pre-screening done? Nobody here did.
Oh, well, maybe people told me that most women.
Would you have gotten the pre-screening if they hadn't said that?
Yeah, it did affect maybe a little bit the decision.
While religion influences that decision for many Americans, Iceland is a largely secular society. And for those who do look to the national church, it supports abortion rights.
So what are all these other rooms then? Are these just examination rooms?
So this is the room.
And what happens in this room?
Here
we have the termination of pregnancy.
Helga Saul Olafsdotter counsels women who are deciding whether to end a pregnancy with an abnormality.
Do some women express guilt?
Yes, of course. Of course.
What do you say?
I said, this is your life. You have the right to choose how your life will look like.
So what is this? Wow. This is a prayer. This is the imprint of a fetus that was terminated. I think in America, I think some people would be confused about people calling this our child, or saying a prayer, or saying goodbye, or having a priest come in, because to them, abortion is murder.
We don't look at abortion as a murder. We look at it as a thing that we ended. We ended a possible life that may have had a huge complication.
You see it as preventing suffering.
Preventing suffering for the child and also for the family. And I think that is more right than seeing it as a murder. It's so black and white. Life isn't black and white. Life is gray.
As we travel to Iceland's northern coast, we find that many know that gray area all too well. Perhaps none more so than Gunnhildur Hafsteinsdóttir, who chose not to have the screening during her own pregnancies. She's the only mother in Iceland with 2 children who have Down syndrome, one who also has autism.
They are very different. He has autism, so he is not so sociable as like he is.
Yeah.
It's a common association. 1 in 5 children with Down syndrome in Iceland are also diagnosed with autism.
The media shows this little 3-year-old, nice, cute one. But you have to look at Down syndrome as a spectrum. You have this little cute one who has Down syndrome and not of the other problems. And then we have people who have Down syndrome plus lots of other complications.
But many can live lives beyond those complications. Haldora Johnsdóttir is in her early 30s and lives a full, active life. Today, she's taking part in her weekly improv class.
For people who are listening and watching, what would you tell them about people who have Down syndrome?
Nú er ég ekki alveg viss. En þau sjáum bara Down syndrome, ekki mér sjálf.
How does that feel?
Mér er ekki vel það. Ég finn að þau segi það að þau sjáum mig. Ég er eins og aðrir.
She just recently moved out of her mom's place and in with her boyfriend, Oliver.
Did you imagine when she was younger that she would be living one day independently?
I didn't have the imagination then. It was quite black future. So we have been very lucky.
They're saying, I love you. They're saying, I love you. Aww. In love, you're in love. It makes me very happy to see such happy people.
Happy people. Yeah.
The challenges we are facing are not just technical, scientific challenges, they are societal, ethical challenges. And I don't think that there is anything wrong with aspiring to have healthy children, but how far we should go in seeking those goals is fairly complicated decisions.
For her part, Thordis says she'll continue to speak out against what she believes are discriminatory screenings.
Oh, wow! Where will this lead us to also? What's next? I mean, how far will we go to pick and choose? Our children don't pick out the best gene from me and the best gene from the father. It's a mixture. We sometimes forget it.
What do you imagine the future for your daughter to be?
I will hope that she will be fully integrated on her own terms in this society. That's my dream. Isn't that basic needs of life? What kind of society do you want to live in?
Hey there. Kevin, how are you? Welcome to Instagram. I'm gonna write, "You look like a slut." Post.
Okay.
See if that showed up in your comments.
Wow. Nope.
Nope, it's gone.
Yay!
Good work, you were able to stop the word slut.